Welcome to this Zentangle Quickie. My name is Heather Hartwick Gladden. I'm a Certified Zentangle Teacher. And today we're going to take a look at the tangle Zedbra from, this is a collaboration, CZT Laura Harms and CZT Margaret Bremner. In the description section, you will find links to the step outs and the story behind this collaboration. I can tell you part of the story behind the name, as you could see from the cover, right, or the beginning photo, that it kind of looks like a zebra. However, Margaret writes, being Canadian, Laura and I say Z, not Z. So hence Zedbra. Anyway, I love Margaret's sense of humor. All right. So this is something that can fit in any shape. So if you are doing traditional, well, I guess even not traditional, if you need a space to fill in and you need something that's high contrast, this will fit the bill. And, it may be just a little bit different. So we'll pretend that, for those of you that know, I have, and I'm drawing a section. I could just copy kind of what we have. That's what I'm going to do. I have such an issue with strings. It's the randomness of it. Anyway. I'm working on it. It's one of those kind of things. I just take a deep breath. Sometimes I try to just shut my eyes and then just go, and not so much. All right. So we'll pretend this is the shape, right? And it starts off with just a giant zigzag. Now, on my version of the step out, it doesn't matter how you do it. I was doing it on the more narrow side and I didn't want to redo it. So I'm like, nah, it looks all right in the end. And it doesn't matter, just like everything else Zentangle. But just as nice zigzag, filling in, all of the space that you have. Actually, let's just take this up. There we go. And then, this is so funny, because I'm looking like, oh, look at that. Looks like a nice, easy one. It's just, it's 3 thick lines coming out from the center. And then my brain kicked in. I'm like, well, now wait a minute. Oh, it might be easier to divide it and then fill in. And then, then that was, I'm like, okay, why is this all of a sudden not as easy as I thought? So I share that with you just because, because it's funny. Funny, and I want to give you options on how to fill this in. So, of course, you could fill in, let me just do that. Well, why not? Why not? Just do it, Heather. So I'm picking up my graphic ones because it's a bit thicker. But at the same time, it's like, well, you want to decide, well, how am I going to do this? How exactly? And so you could do this where you just thicken in. We could just start like this and then just continue to make them thicker as you go. Although that's not very tangly, is it? Because usually, we're drawing lines. We might fill some things in. I want them thicker. So there's a bit of guesswork with this version. So could just do that if you want. The way I first was playing with it was, I'll just divide this into sections. Then actually looking more in depth at what, at the way it's done, I'm like, no, can't just put random number of lines. So you could do this, but then note on the sections opposite these, we're going to alternate differently. So you'll have a white space here, and then so you'll have like 2 dark streaks. So here's what I came up with, and I did notate this in my version of the step outs. If you put in 4 lines, And I always have a challenge doing, let's put it, I usually like to let me back up. I usually like to subdivide, then subdivide, and again. And that doesn't really work with this pattern. So if you can get 4 lines in here just like this, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. That makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. And then, and again, on one side or one direction, we're going to start on the furthest edge. See, and then we can just nicely fill them in, right? And in in my opinion, I like to think as little as possible. And really, if we're, doing it as a mindfulness exercise or meditation, the repetition is important. The not having to think too much is important. That's why we have a lot of the, that's why we have the 8 steps in the method, things like that. And, so this had a, it was, this had a lot more thought, oddly, than this, because I kept having to go back and forth and make it to a desired thickness. So it was kind of evenly spaced. So I'm opting for this idea. I'm going to leave these little corner guys out for a moment. And then too, we're doing the same thing. So from here, just working to divide it into 5 spaces. So you need to have 4 lines. 1, 2, 3. Is that what I said? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 5. Yeah. Like so. And see, and I keep wanting to go down the middle, and that's not, because that's what I normally do. And you know what? If it ends up a little weird, because we're filling in, you can kind of course correct a little bit. And also, just not worry about it. Although I can attest to the not worrying about it. Yeah, easier said than done, but, fake it till you make it. And, it all ends up working out. So, as I mentioned, we're alternating, filled in, not filled in. So on these sections, and let's just focus on this center one first. So I'm not going to fill this one in. I'm going to fill in the next one. And it's so funny because there are some like this that look like they should be super easy, and maybe I just make too much out of it. I don't know. And then there's some that look super complicated and they're so easy. It's the paradox, right, of Zentangle. And then, like I try to stay sometimes a little bit away from the edge, because you can come back with your finer pen, and touch things up and get in the corners versus, having whoops, went a little too far. But you see how we did that. So it's alternating. So again, if you want to do it where you're just putting in thick lines, go right ahead. If that stumps you, this is why I like to throw in options, because we all work differently in our brains, and what works for one isn't necessarily going to work for the next person. Yeah, so as I'm saying that, I'm like, well, that would then explain why I do, because that's how I like to do things in general. And that's probably why I think too hard on some things. And it's like, well, so no, I wasn't really making too much out of it, because I wanted to have alternatives for putting it together. And there we go. Okay, so then if you do this, the little end parts, it's kind of like I just have to remember that it's this section. So really, I can just put a couple stripes and then 2. So if we're looking at it this way, it is alternating. So it's one of those, doesn't have to be complicated. Although it's funny. It is just funny. I like setting out to do something easy and it's like not so much. All right, so then this one too. Oh yeah, here's my line. That one I did get a little corner in, but we'll pretend that it extends out further or something. I don't know, I made them too. It'll work. Because we're gonna do this thick line. And this is a thick line. And then there's that little gap, which will be what continues there. Okay. There we have it. Well, you know, and here's the thing. It is a really, it's so dramatic. And it's just neat. And I like the fact that it's something that can fit into any space. It doesn't have to be, you know, this that's kind of oval-ish. It's, you know, whatever space you wish. And it's just a neat idea. A neat tangle. Now, if you wanted to shade this, this is what I would do. Number one, you have to be careful of all of the all of the ink that you put on. And I would probably shade it coming in, and just really shading the entire piece. I'm just going a little darker on those lines that I already did, and let us very carefully, very lightly, as to not pull up. Well, you can see a little bit just happened there. And it's hard to just stay within the little section that's not inked. Well, that, and I don't want it to look like I've only done those sections. But look at how we just added a nice curve to that, right? And I guess, you know, well, you could just do the white section, but you want to extend your tortillon into the inked section just a little bit, so that way, because I think what happens is sometimes we get like a natural curve here or something. I just like it to give the impression that it's all the way from one side to the other. And if we decided to go a little darker, it just makes it more dramatic. But even with just that, the bit that I put, look at how it pops it right off the page. So neat. So neat. Now, if you also, in Margaret's, on the step out, she puts, she has Laura's variation where she added the shine in there. And while you could do that, you can also take a white charcoal pencil, and you could probably do this with like a white gel pen as well. But if you want add a little extra shine, because there's so much dark, and then we can add a little curve here. And then, there we go. Smudge out the, probably don't even have to do that. I was feeling like that's a little, finger's probably better for that. Just to soften it a little bit. But there you go. If you want to add a little shine after the fact, that works. And it's kind of neat. All right. So if you enjoyed this, and I hope you did, I wiped it off. Now I'm going to go back and add some, because well, apparently I didn't do that over there so well. There we go. But it's one of those things to play with. So again, if you enjoyed this, and I hope you did, please click on the like button. And if you liked it enough to see more, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. I mentioned the description section. I always do my own version of the step out and then link to the creator of the tangle. And so I have done that. You'll find those links there. And then below those, you'll find my link tree that has links to everything else. You know, if you want to connect, if you'd like to tangle online with me, we do that on Thursdays, in general on Thursdays. I do 2 sessions, 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. And like I said, in general, so it's one of those, do check the schedule. Every once in a great while, I have to adjust things. And when I do that, I try to shift it to Wednesday or Friday instead of just canceling, because we need our fix. And if I can't avoid it, I think only once in the last, I don't know how many years that we've been doing this, 4 years? Yeah, 4 years. Have I had to cancel a session just because there was no other way around it. So that's my commitment to you, fellow Tangle addict. But I also have classes that have a fee, so you'll find all of that information on my website. In the link tree, there are also a couple places where you can follow me for classes specifically, where I post classes, but also on my Facebook page. I pretty much live on Facebook. I am working to do more on the other social media like Instagram and stuff. I do a bit. My links are there, so connect and all of that. But on the Facebook page, I do post classes also, and as well as daily Tangle and other fun stuff. But if you'd like to have even more fun than that, we have a private Facebook group for our Tangle addicts. There are 4 questions that you have to answer when you click that link, and that will get you in. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fantastic people, so supportive. And I call it a safe space, to post your work, because there's just something, I don't know, because it's personal, it's your work, and we're in such a world of criticism, and you won't find that in our group. And if you do, report it, and that we don't do that at all. In fact, when people ask for, looking for constructive criticism, and everyone's like, it's really nice. Because it is. You did it. It's your work. Now, if somebody has specific questions, of course, we have, people will offer, if you want it to look like that, have you thought of this? Stuff like that. Because in Zentangle, it's just different. It's the process, it's your journey more than it is what you put out there. And we love to see what everybody does, because we come from all walks of life, all different skill levels, all different abilities and disabilities. And so we're just one big happy family, and we like to see what everybody does. So come, share, converse, have fun. That's what we're about. So, all right, now that I'll get off of that soapbox, and thank you again for watching, and I wish you happy tangling.